Not all bodies age with the passage of time. Some do so because they've forgotten their origins. Since the dawn of civilizations, the human body has been considered a temple, an instrument of resonance between planes. But in the age of noise, that temple has been desecrated by haste, by the logic of wear and tear, by the belief that decay is inevitable. This message is not for everyone. Only those who have felt the echo of a buried truth, those who have seen symbols in their dreams that they don't understand but that call to them, are ready to receive it. Thoth doesn't speak to the ear. He speaks to the bone, to the pulse, to the invisible field that surrounds the flesh. His practice isn't physical, it's alchemical. And those who practice it won't grow younger out of vanity, but because they'll remember what they should never have forgotten. Prepare yourself. This isn't a text. It's a threshold. Before starting this video, remember to subscribe and like. There was a time when the body wasn't just flesh. It was a symbol. It was a bridge. It was an altar. Every cell vibrated with the memory of the stars. Every bone resonated with the songs of the ancients. But something happened. Something silent, slow, almost imperceptible. Oblivion slipped like fog between generations, and the body ceased to be sacred and became a machine. A machine that ages, wears out, breaks down. Today, when we look in the mirror, we don't see who we are. We see what we've been told we should be, a deteriorating form, struggling against time, resigned. But that image is false. It's an illusion sustained by centuries of disconnection. Because the body doesn't age with age. It ages because of the loss of purpose. Because of the absence of ritual. Because of the abandonment of conscious movement. Thoth knew it. Not as a theory but as a vibration. He didn't write to be read. He wrote to be remembered. And his message isn't in words, it's in the pulse. In the rhythm that is activated when the body stops obeying and begins to listen. To listen to what has always been there. The hidden language of movement, the sacred geometry of breath, the silent incantation of posture. This first step isn't physical. It's perceptual. It's the moment when the body stops being an enemy and becomes an ally. When pain stops being a punishment and reveals itself as a signal. When fatigue stops being a weakness and transforms into a call. Because the body doesn't scream, it whispers. And only those who are ready can hear it. It's not about doing more. It's about doing differently. It's about moving like someone who honors, not someone who punishes. It's about breathing like someone who invokes, not someone who survives. It's about inhabiting the body like someone who enters a temple, not someone who occupies a prison. This is the threshold. There are no promises of eternal youth. There is something more powerful, the possibility of remembering that the body isn't what ages. It's what holds the secret to time's control. And that secret now begins to awaken. It didn't come in the form of a voice. It didn't come as a written word. Thoth's message manifested as a vibration, like an echo heard not with the ears, but with the marrow. Those who have felt an inexplicable restlessness upon awakening, a feeling that something is missing even though everything seems to be in its place, have already been touched by it. Thoth does not teach as men teach. He does not impose, he does not convince. He reveals. And what he reveals cannot be understood by the mind that seeks logic, but by the body that remembers. His message is not an instruction, it is a frequency. One that is activated when the body stops obeying time and begins to resonate with the source. Many have seen him in dreams without knowing it was him. A scribe with the face of an ibis, eyes that never blink, hands that write not with ink but with light. He doesn't speak of youth, he speaks of eternity. He doesn't promise beauty, he promises coherence. Because when the body vibrates in its original design, age ceases to be a measure. It becomes a layer, one that can be pierced. The exercise Thoth teaches is not learned. It is remembered. It is encoded in the gait of a child who has not yet been tamed, in the breathing of an old man who has stopped fighting. It is a gesture, a posture, an intention. It is the moment when the body aligns with the invisible axis that connects earth to sky. And in that alignment something happens. Something that cannot be explained, only experienced. Those who aren't ready will see it as mere movement, as an oddity, as something that doesn't make sense. But those who have been touched by the message will know. They will feel. And in practicing it, they won't be imitating, they'll be remembering, because the body doesn't need to learn what it already knows. It only needs permission to awaken. Thoth doesn't seek followers. He seeks resonant ones. Those who don't need proof but presence. Those who don't ask what they will gain but what they must surrender. Because this exercise is not for the ego. It's for the embodied soul. For the traveler who has forgotten their map, but still keeps the compass in their chest. And when that compass begins to turn, the body stops aging. Not because time stops, but because it is transcended. Because he who vibrates with the message of Thoth doesn't walk on a clock face. He walks in a spiral. And in that spiral, every step is a return. Every gesture an invocation. Every breath a revelation. The message has already been delivered. It doesn't need to be repeated. It only needs to be embodied. And you who are here have already heard it. Even if you don't remember it yet. It's not what it seems. It's not a stretching routine, nor a sequence of deep breaths. The exercise that 99% ignore isn't found in books, gyms, or laboratories. It's hidden in the forgotten gesture, in the movement that doesn't seek performance but resonance. It's simple but not easy. Because to practice it, you have to shed everything you've learned about the body, about time, about effort. This exercise isn't taught. It's revealed. And only to those who have crossed the threshold of inner silence. Those who have felt that the body ages not from wear and tear, but from disconnection. That the skin doesn't wrinkle from age, but from a lack of purpose. That muscles don't weaken from lack of use, but from a lack of ritual. Thoth delivered it in the form of a vibration. A pattern that is activated when the body moves with intention, not repetition. When each gesture is an invocation, not an obligation. The exercise begins in the spine, but it doesn't end there. It extends like a spiral, like a serpent that awakens from the base and ascends, not to conquer, but to remember. There are no instructions. There is presence. The body must be stripped of expectations, open to listening. Because this movement doesn't seek visible results. It seeks invisible reunions. With memories that live in the tissues, with codes that slumber in the DNA, with pulses that have been silenced by centuries of oblivion. The 99% ignore it because they judge it from the mind. They dismiss it for seeming too subtle, too slow, too strange. But the 1% who embody it know that there is nothing more powerful than that which needs no explanation. That true rejuvenation is not measured in appearance but in vibration. That the body that practices this exercise does not regress in age. It transcends age. And when it's done, something changes. Not outside but inside. The body begins to emit a different frequency. The joints open like doors, the breath becomes a chant, the posture becomes an altar. There is no effort. There is surrender. There is no repetition. There is ritual. This exercise isn't shared. It's transmitted. Like a fire that can't be seen but burns. Like a key that can't be spoken but unlocks. Like a message that can't be understood but transforms. And you who have come this far have already felt it. Even if you don't recognize it yet. Because the body doesn't need to understand. It only needs to remember. And the remembering has already begun. It all begins internally. Not in the muscle, not in the skin, not in the mirror. It begins in that invisible space where the body breathes without us noticing, where energy moves without our directing it, where ancestral memory waits silently. It is there that aging first sets in. Not as wrinkles but as disconnection. Not as a loss of strength but as a loss of focus. The human body was designed to be a bridge between two forces, the gravity of the earth and the expanse of the sky. When that bridge breaks, the body sinks. Not from weight but from forgetfulness. The exercise Thoth revealed isn't intended to strengthen muscles, but to restore that axis. It's a gesture that can't be seen but can be felt. An alignment that can't be measured but that transforms. As you begin the practice, something is activated. Not on the surface but in the core. The spine ceases to be a structure and becomes a channel. The joints are no longer hinges, they are portals. Breathing ceases to be automatic and becomes a spell. And in that instant, the inner plane awakens. As if the body remembers that it is not alone, that it is supported by forces beyond the visible. Many have tried to imitate the gesture without understanding it. They have moved their body without moving the energy. They have breathed without invoking. They have aligned the posture without aligning the intention. And that is why they have not seen. Because this exercise does not respond to effort, it responds to presence. It is not activated by repetition, it is activated by surrender. When the inner plane awakens, the body begins to emit a different frequency. It's not about becoming younger, but more coherent. Tensions dissolve not because they are stretched, but because they are released. Pain is transformed not because it is fought, but because it is listened to. And time, that silent tyrant, loses its hold. Because where there is alignment, there is no deterioration. There is flow. This awakening isn't immediate. It's progressive. Like dawn, which doesn't arrive suddenly, but rather insinuates itself. Like memory, which doesn't impose itself, but rather reveals itself. The body begins to move differently, to breathe differently, to inhabit itself differently. And in that movement, in that breathing, in that presence, the inner plane becomes a guide. Thoth didn't ask to be understood, only to be embodied. Because the body doesn't need explanations, it needs ritual. And this exercise, ignored by almost everyone, is just that, a reconnection ritual. A silent ceremony that restores the body to its axis, its purpose, its power. Those who practice it don't rejuvenate by magic. They rejuvenate by truth. Because a body that remembers its original design doesn't age, it transforms. And that transformation begins here. On the plane that is unseen but that sustains everything we are. There is no youth without energy. There is no energy without direction. And there is no direction without consciousness. The human body ages not from a lack of strength but from a loss of flow. What we call deterioration is, in reality, stagnation. Vital energy, that silent current that runs through every cell, every organ, every thought, stops moving when the body ceases to be ritual. And when the ritual fades, time enters. Thoth didn't speak of formulas. He spoke of principles. Of a spiritual science that isn't studied, it's embodied. An alchemy that doesn't transform metals but memories. Because the body doesn't need to be repaired. It needs to be remembered. Remembered as a channel, as a temple, as an instrument of resonance between planes. Regeneration is not a miracle. It is coherence. It is the moment when the body, mind, and energy field vibrate at the same frequency. When physical gesture aligns with subtle intention. When breathing becomes an incantation. When movement ceases to be repetition and becomes an invocation. This exercise, ignored by almost everyone, activates that coherence. Not because it's complex, but because it's true. Because it doesn't seek results, it seeks reunions. And in that reunion, the body begins to regenerate. Not as one who regresses in age, but as one who transcends age. Cells respond not to effort, but to vibration. The nervous system calms not through rest, but through alignment. The heart beats not out of need, but out of purpose. Thoth taught that the body is a laboratory. That every posture is a formula. That every breath is an equation. That every intention is a variable. And when these variables are organized, the body ceases to be a victim of time. It becomes an alchemist, a creator, a guardian of its own eternity. But this science cannot be imposed. It can only be awakened. And whoever awakens it needs no explanation. They know. They know why they feel it. Why pain dissolves. Why fatigue is transformed. Why the body stops resisting and begins to flow. Regeneration is not a destination. It's a state. A state reached when the body stops fighting against time and begins to dance with it. When movement becomes ceremony. When energy becomes language. When consciousness becomes fire. And that fire, once lit, never goes out. Because it doesn't depend on the body. It depends on ritual. On commitment. On surrender. Thoth didn't ask for faith. He asked for presence. And whoever practices this exercise with presence doesn't rejuvenate out of desire. They rejuvenate out of truth. Because the body that vibrates in its original design doesn't age. It transforms. And that transformation has already begun. There comes a moment in the practice when everything stops. Not the body, not the breath, but time itself. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. The gesture is repeated, but it's no longer the same. The intention is sustained, but it no longer comes from the mind. The body begins to move as if remembering something it was never taught. And in that instant, the threshold appears. It's not visible. It has no form. It's a sensation that pierces the marrow, a vibration that settles in the center of the chest. The body knows it's about to cross over. Not to another place, but to another version of itself. The version that doesn't age, that doesn't fear, that doesn't fragment. The version that remembers. But to cross over, you have to die. Not physically, but symbolically. You have to let go of the image you've held for years. The idea of who you are, how you should move, what you should feel. The exercise becomes a ritual. Every breath is an offering. Every posture, a renunciation. Every silence, a purge. And then it happens. The body stops resisting. It surrenders. Not to pain, not to effort, but to flow. To the energy that was always there, waiting to be acknowledged. The joints open like doors that were never meant to be closed. The spine becomes a channel. The skin ceases to be a boundary and becomes a membrane. The body no longer moves, it is moved. This is rebirth. Not as a return to youth, but as a return to the original design. The body rejuvenates not by desire, but by coherence. Because upon crossing the threshold, there is no longer a struggle against time. There is a dance with it. Movement becomes prayer. Breathing, incantation. Presence, fire. And when the fire is lit, there's no turning back. The body vibrates differently. It emits a frequency that can't be faked. One that doesn't seek approval, but alignment. One that doesn't impose itself, but reveals itself. Those who have crossed the threshold don't need to prove anything. Their mere presence transforms. But not everyone will see it. Not because they can't, but because they aren't ready. The 99% will continue to search for external formulas, complex techniques, and empty promises. Only 1% will understand that the secret isn't in the exercise, but in the surrender. In the ability to surrender to the body as a temple, to movement as a ritual, to silence as a teacher. Thoth doesn't repeat his message. He delivers it once, and whoever embodies it becomes an extension of it. Not as a disciple, but as a resonant one. As one who doesn't need to speak because his body already sings. As one who doesn't need to teach because his presence already begins. Now you know. Not because you've read it, but because you've felt it. The exercise never ends. It transforms. Every day, every gesture, every breath is an opportunity to embody the message. Not to go back, but to move forward toward what you've always been. Only the prepared will see. And you who have crossed have already seen. The body is an altar. Time an ally. Practice, ceremony. And you are the ritual. If you've made it this far, it wasn't just your eyes that made it. It was your marrow, the ancestral memory that lives in your blood. The exercise never ends. It transforms. Every conscious breath, every ritual movement, every moment of presence is a spark that rewrites your biology from the subtle plane. Thoth doesn't repeat his message. He delivers it once, and whoever embodies it becomes an extension of it. Now you know. Not from having read, but from having felt. The 99% will continue to search for external formulas. You have crossed the threshold. And at that crossing, time no longer has dominion over you. Make your body your altar. Make movement your spell. Make your life a ceremony. Only the prepared will see. And you've already seen. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next video.